All right, everybody, spin that wheel, randomly deciding which randomizer preset we are going to play right now, and then we are going to rank it on the ever-growing tier list. Next up, is it possible? Oh, we've been wanting to try out Big Toss for a while, but instead it is yet another fan favorite, Leg Day. Let's go ahead and hop into it. Let's go, PogChamp. It's time to hop in to the Leg Day randomizer. The main gimmick for this randomizer, I think, will be pretty apparent as soon as we start playing is Alucard. The timer didn't work. Timer. And we're back. We're so back, baby. 100% accurate timer 100% of the time. That's my fault. I just probably opened the timer too late or whatever. But yeah, Leg Day is one of those heavily modified presets. This preset is also going to be showing up in the next upcoming tournament as well, in combination with the area randomizer. We're not doing the area randomizer with this one, as cool as I think that would be. But for now, I think we just leave it as is. So I know I've gotten a lot of weird mixed opinions about Leg Day in the comments of my videos. Speaking of, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment for the algorithm. Let me know how you feel about Leg Day. Join the live stream over on twitch.tv/DragonBlood so you can post spinning fish emotes while I speedrun through video games. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of mixed opinions and mixed reviews from the comment section, which I think is very interesting. I think people don't like how overpowered the movement is, which is weird. Like, every time I play a preset that has very good movement, people get upset, and I don't understand why. I think the backdash, dude. Okay, so the sprite is all kinds of fucked up, and that's probably because we're, well, I know it's because we have secret boots on. My comments? Well, you have to understand that the comment section is a reflection of, at the very least, a generalized, broad, what's the word I'm thinking of? Sense of opinions, you know what I mean? So I don't think their input is invalid by any means. It's more so just that, like, are the people commenting on the videos the most knowledgeable SotN players of all time? Yes, that's what I'm saying. If you subscribe and then comment to a Dragon Blitz Daily video, you are the most knowledgeable human being of all time, is what I'm saying. This is true. I just find it interesting that people don't like the presets that give you powerful movement options. I don't know why that is. I think there is this weird obsession with Symphony of the Night and trying to fit the square SotN into the circular hole that is combat. Like, people are really obsessed with combat in this game when it's like, I don't know, man. To me, that's like trying to obsess over, like, the art design of, I don't know, the chess pieces on chess.com. Like, we're just comparing two things that are, like, technically in the game, but it's like, I don't know, I don't think chess is a game about its art design. Much like Symphony of the Night is not a game about its combat. Yes, combat exists in the game, but like what are we doing here? I think basketball is too movement focused. They should go back to the OG rules without dribbling. That's so true, actually. Oh, come on, Tetra Spirit. Tetra Spirit, wake up. I don't know. I think the idea of having infinite double jumps is cool. And this preset also eliminates other movement options, such that you actually, like, use the gimmick of the preset pretty well. You know what I mean? Is the backdashing through enemies, like, too powerful? Is that the idea? When it's like, I don't know, enemies are not much of an obstacle in this game, hardly ever, you know what I mean? And you still have to, like, time the backdash such that the invincibility actually happens, because you can't just, like, backdash into an enemy immediately, because the invincibility comes out on, like, frame 4 or something like that. So there is skill to it. I don't know. I think skill-based movement is like harder to sell people on. That's a familiar card. I don't need that. Something about it. Maybe I'm wrong, but something about it just feels weird. And I'm sure that it's a vocal minority of people that find it uninteresting or boring or whatever. The same thing happened with Nimble. I asked people their opinions on the Nimble preset, and people are like, it's too boring. And I'm just like, really? I don't know. It just feels weird to me that people would find a preset that like accentuates the cool movement and speedrunning and then say it's too boring. They just want to watch/play a game that is not SotN. Well, it's more so that people want to play an idealized version of SotN that they have in their head and not the actual version of SotN that currently exists or the versions of SotN that have been randomized, you know what I mean? Damn, what a fantastic grouping of weapons. The best weapons in the entire game all right next to each other? Wow. Yeah, that's another thing is people don't like when you have overpowered weapons at the start or overpowered gear at the start. But it's like, you understand that SotN is broken down into unplayable trash and like super broken items. And there's like very little in between, right? Most people don't think about that. They're like, oh no, dude, I just got the Damascus sword, which is slightly better than the Gladius, which is slightly better than the short sword. And it's like, yeah, but they're all trash because your fist is just like better than all of those 99% of the time. Most weapons fall into either okay, doo-doo ass tier, or this is so godlike it invalidates playing the video game. Again, another reason why this is just not a very combat-focused video game. I don't know. But my opinion as the guy who plays this game every day for years on end is probably invalid. And the guy who played this game once in his grandma's basement back in 1999, they are much more knowledgeable about the game than I am, so I should just hold that. Like, why would I, like, know anything about this video game? So I'm just wrong. I wonder if those viewers also enjoy Super Metroid. I wonder, yeah. I don't know. And maybe my characterization is like a bastardization of the actual thoughts and opinions. But also, like, what do you want from me? I'm just breaking their nostalgia? Yeah, maybe. But it's like, I don't know. Like, if I catch people playing Call of Duty and they're not slinging slurs around, am I going to be mad at them for breaking my nostalgia? Probably not. Like, the world is a different place now. The way people play video games is different now. The games themselves have evolved. I would be mad. I don't know. Obviously, that analogy was more of a meme than anything. I didn't actually mean that. But you get what I'm saying. God damn it. They're coming from watching first playthroughs. That could be part of it, yeah. There's probably some percentage of viewers that are expecting something more akin to a first playthrough. And then when they see how broken the game actually is, they're like upset, I guess, or their cognitive dissonance kicks in and they're like, wait a minute. And I think the randomizers that also changed the game around a lot probably also hurt in that regard. I think if you were more used to how speedruns of the vanilla game work, then this is my hypothesis, maybe I'm wrong, but if you're like down with vanilla speedruns, you're probably also down with things like Nimble and Leg Day that give you overpowered movement and stuff like that. You know what? For the fans, since I'm yapping, we can yap with a little bit of Gamba. There we go. Crazy, I know you're being like 100% facetious and also kind of going off of my my joke there. But please stop. What? My library, it disappeared because the guy fucking exploded? And now it's gone forever. This game fucking sucks. Never mind. I'm back on board with all of the guys who are complaining that the preset's broken. Symphony of the Night... Speed tax. I've talked about this concept before, and if I wasn't a washed-up speedrunner that still plays a 27-year-old video game, I'd probably be just some random ranty gamer opinion YouTube channel. God forbid. A fate worse than death. But I've said it many times before that the idea of like the game that exists inside of your head just isn't real. Like nostalgia is... Even nostalgia for games that are like relatively new. I've said it before, but like Dark Souls 1 is a video game that most true gamers, like if you want to be a based epic true gamer, you say Dark Souls 1 is the best one. You say Dark Souls 1 is a perfect video game and nothing can ever beat that. Now, my rebuttal is, have you played Dark Souls 1 recently? Like, yeah, like the first, you know, the first two bells, ringing the first two bells, going through Anor Londo, killing Ornstein and Smo, peak gaming. Peak gaming. As soon as you get the Lord Vessel, I just start over. I don't want to play more of the game. The rest of the game sucks ass. You know what I'm saying? So, like, the idea of the Dark Souls in my head is that this is a really beautiful, perfect video game. The level design is great. The combat encounters are really, like, well thought out and interesting. Like, the difficulty scaling and different types of boss encounters all are meaningful and interesting. And then you play the game and you're like, dude, this game fucking sucks ass. How is this a worldwide phenomena? What the fuck? How did this game, like, create an entire, like, AAA gaming genre? How is this possible? Because, like, people complain about Blighttown. Blighttown is fucking baby park in comparison to all the other bullshit that exists in goddamn Dark Souls 1. You know what I'm saying?
Farewell for now.
Yeah, Blighttown is just like really painful on your first playthrough. But like what is it? The Tomb of the Giants is like infinitely worse. Especially if you don't have a light source. Every single Lord Soul area sucks ass. Except for maybe Duke's Archives is fine. But also you can like get cursed and then you're like kind of stuck in Duke's Archives without a way out for a while. I don't know. Yeah, Archives is annoying, but it's still the best one, which is saying something. Painted World is neat. Yeah, but it's completely optional. But yes, it's very neat. Not amazing or anything, but it's neat. The DLC is obviously like the best part of Dark Souls 1. But Like, the DLC is when they figured out, oh, wait, we can make a good video game? Shit, my bad. Yo, my bad, OGs. No. We made a good video game this time. You just gotta, you know, do all that DLC shit, though. Anyways, it's very easy for me to compare many games to Dark Souls because I am a gamer who plays video games, so obviously everything must be compared to Dark Souls. But I think Symphony of the Night can fall into a similar pattern where people don't appreciate the game for what it is. They appreciate the game for how they remember it and how their specific first playthrough went, even though that is not necessarily indicative of how the game actually is, because the game is so open. Symphony of the Night is a game that is incredibly open and you can experience it at your own pace with different builds, different items, and in that way it is very similar to people's like Dark Souls playthroughs. There's a lot of cryptic, you know, stuff and secrets and Easter eggs and stuff of that nature. So in that regard, funny enough, Symphony of the Night and Dark Souls are relatively similar, even though the gameplay elements themselves are quite a bit different. And I think a lot of people's nostalgia around Dark Souls 1, preventing them from seeing the inherent, like, flaws in the video game. Also, because when you point out Symphony of the Night has a poor combat system, even, like, people in the SotN Randomizer Discord, SotN Speedrunning Randomizer Combo Discord, will still argue, no, actually, points finger into pushing up glasses. The combat system isn't bad, it's just everything else. And it's like, no, dude. If your only way to say the combat system is good is to blame literally every other design aspect, I'm sorry, it's the combat system. That's the part that's not fucking bumping. I do love how the backdash maintains momentum in this preset. It's cool. I don't think SotN is getting re-released anytime soon, no. Especially not a PC port. I don't think it's going to happen. If it happens, it'll be because of as little input as possible from Konami. There are aspects that are good, like the combat controls. I think it's just because this game controls fantastically, and combat is a part of that. But, like, I don't know. When you point out that the game was not designed around combat, people get really upset. But then it's like, I don't know. Have you looked at the in-game tactics menu? Like, they wanted the game to be easy, bro. I think they wanted the game to be easy and then trolled people with Galamoth, but then it turns out Galamoth also is incredibly easy. The HP values are basically randomized. Yeah, it's always the people that don't know how the game actually works that complain about the fact that people misunderstand, like, the game's balance or whatever, but it's like, nah, dude. The game balance is just fucked. And honestly, it's okay. It's okay to like a game that is imperfect. I talked about it at the beginning of stream. SotN is my favorite video game of all time, but I will never call it perfect. Yeah, the combat in this game is very serviceable for a first playthrough. But then as soon as you realize how broken the combat system actually is, you just never, like, engage with it at all. Obviously, you don't know that Tetra Spirit exists on your first playthrough. As soon as you figure out Tetra Spirit exists and you can just do it whenever you want, it's like, you can just get away with anything. Any boss encounter for, like, the first, like, half of the game, the first castle even, you could just spam Tetra Spirit and probably win. See you later, Talik. The jank adds a lot to the game. I would say so, yeah. SotN jank is very charming. For sure. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man. Even when you watch a first playthrough, most casual gamers are able to beat like every boss in the game either first, like within 3 tries or something like that. Even Dracula. Like, the game is not meant to be hard. The game is meant to be about vibes, exploration, story. Even if I think the story is kind of meh. Like, they clearly put a lot of time and effort into the story. I thought I put Spike Breaker on. Also, you guys forget that, like, this game gives you 1 billion healing items as well. Like, have you ever played SotN? They're constantly giving you potions, high potions, life max-ups. Like, by the time you get to Dracula on a casual playthrough, you probably have, like, 600 HP. And a bunch of, like, high potions and shit. Tons of food, yeah. Like, do you guys forget how difficult the classic Vanias are? They hand out no food, no healing. If you forget your holy water sub-weapon and like lose it at the start of the area, sorry, that's the only sub-weapon that does it shit all versus the boss of this area, so you're just shit out of luck. So this game was like conceptually created as a foil to the classic Vanias because they wanted to do something different. Something incredibly different in scope and execution, and it worked. Is the backdash and movement tech? No, you have to get the SotN DLC package. You pay $5.99 and you get the upgraded backdash. It's part of the randomizer preset. The randomizer preset is leg day. You get infinite jumps and really far backdash with invincibility frames. Yeah, Konami hid the DLC behind the Konami code, actually. And every time you do it wrong, it drains your bank account. SotN made by EA? No, SotN made by Konami. Konami is just as evil with their gaming practices. Nowadays, they take the term randomizer loosely. It's more so ROM hacks built on top of the randomizer because the randomizer is just a very convenient system for making ROM hacks. Which is fine by me. Like, most people would probably, like, if leg day existed as it's a standalone ROM hack, people would also just be combining it with the randomizer anyways, so. Speaking of, do they have the... Have they updated the randomizer at all to add, like, a vanilla setting? To, like, essentially just force the items and relics into their vanilla locations while just adding the extra, like, ROM hacky stuff. If not, I think that'd be a cool update. I've also wanted to do, like, no logic rando stuff at some point, but potential outtake, Super Castlevania 4 laid the foundation for SotN. I don't understand, one, how that's a hot take, or two, how that's, like, I just don't, you know what it is? I just never think about Super Castlevania 4. That game just doesn't exist in my mind. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. As somebody who didn't grow up with a Super Nintendo, or caring about Castlevania outside of SotN, like, I can't be bothered to play Castlevania 4, I'll be honest. I'm sure it's fine. It's just, you know. Like, what do you want from me? Especially as somebody who just doesn't really care that much about Classicvanias. Meh. I mean, Rondo of Blood is definitely a more influential foundation for sure. And Rondo is also a Classicvania that's actually fun. They figured out, wait, we can make good video games in the Classicvania style that don't just punish the player for attempting to engage with the systems and not memorizing a game that they haven't played yet. Because that's my biggest problem with the Classicvanias, is that they're asking you to memorize a game you haven't played yet. And, like, that's how you play the game. And that pattern memorization is, like, really frustrating on your first playthrough, because it's like, well, I had no way of knowing how to deal with this situation, so I'm just going to lose my life or whatever. That's fine. And most of the time, it's not too bad. But in some games, Bloodlines, if you get a game over, you get fucking booted back to the beginning of the game. Which is just fucking unacceptable for a video game that's about trial and error. Like, imagine playing Dark Souls. Guy compares everything to Dark Souls again. Where if you die too many times versus, like, fucking Taurus Demon, they send your ass back to the goddamn asylum. It's like, oh, yeah, the game about trial and error and figuring your way through the boss patterns and enemy patterns. You didn't figure out the boss pattern within a certain number of lives. Die. Like, you just can't defend that concept. I'm sorry. It's just bad. There's no excuse for a home console video game to have the goddamn quarter-eating mentality of you have to replay the whole fucking game. Only talented players can win. True. This is just true facts. The CV1 Metroidvania is kind of sick, though. Like, sick in the head, yeah. Sick and twisted. Unless they've updated it recently to fix a lot of the issues I had with it. I think the CV1 Metroidvania has a lot of problems from a balance game design perspective. The entirety of the money system is, like, beyond fucked up. It's like a worse implementation of a money system than goddamn Hollow Knight, and Hollow Knight's is pretty bad. But yeah, there's a reason I haven't uploaded a video of my playthrough of CV Revamped, because I got, like, what, 4 hours in, and I was just like, you know what, I'm done, man. I'm done. There's just too much, like, anti-player stuff in the game to the point where it's just not fun. So I just gave up. Especially a Metroidvania that likes to waste your time when Metroidvanias already are a genre that inherently, due to, like, the open world nature and the backtracking nature, can tend to feel like they're wasting your time. Having a Metroidvania that actually wastes your time is fucking brutal, honestly. Like, it just doesn't feel fun to continue with. Like, that game is definitely much more based around the ideals and, like, understandings of a Classicvania, and then the Metroidvania elements feel tacked on, which for me is, like, not the reason I'm there. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a huge Classicvania fan, you probably are like, damn, this shit goes hard. Because you're finally seeing, like, good-ish game design elements in your... I'm being mean. I'm being mean. I was about to say really mean things about Classicvania fans. Just because it's not my cup of tea doesn't mean I need to fucking be mean about it. Hold on. Take a step back. Take a breath. But yes, if you're coming from the perspective of, I really love Classicvanias, it's a good Classicvania. It has all the same trappings and bullshit of a Classicvania, but also a lot of cool stuff on top of it. But if you're a Metroidvania fan, it's like, this is pretty mid. It's like one of the most mid Metroidvanias I've ever played. From the standpoint of the Metroidvania design. There's obviously a lot of care and attention and detail and passion put into that project. I just can't get behind it because it's like, I don't know, man. Like, it's just too anti-player. It's too much like, hey, you died, so we're gonna, like, fuck you over even harder because you died to some bullshit we put in the game that you couldn't prepare for. And that shit gets really tiresome. Because if it happens once, it's like, okay, like, the devs got me, I got a little bit trolled, whatever. And then it just happens over, and over, and over, and over, and over, and over, to the point where you're like, dude, like, why am I playing a game that, like, is literally antagonistic and hates me? Like, why would I do that to myself? I mean, it tried to do the balance of like a Souls-like where you like lose resources upon dying or whatever, but like you also need to, there's like so many reasons why the way they did it is very poorly designed in many reasons, but I'm not going to go into it. Was it doing the Souls thing? It was doing the Souls thing where you lose money upon death, but also you needed to have an equipment, like essentially like a badge or a talisman equipped when you can only have 3 equipped, and you have to purchase it, by the way. In order to actually try and get your money back after death. Otherwise, it's gone forever. Souls did so much damage to 2D Metroidvanias. It really did. It really did. Yeah, when the answer is if you want to get back the progress that you lost by grinding money for like 30 minutes, you know, like I said, it feels like it's just wasting the player's time. There are other ways to make death feel punishing in a open world game like that. And not only that, you need money to warp. Like, you need to buy, every time you warp somewhere new, you have to pay for it. Which also is just like, okay, well, you lost all of your money because you kept dying, so you can't even warp to a spot that lets you farm money easier. It's like, come on, man. Like, did you not think about how these negative impact, like, feedback loops are going to impact players that are struggling? Like, all it takes is for you to die one time to snowball into a scenario where you just are not enjoying the game at all because you don't get to engage with the fun parts of the game system because you're constantly in this cycle of dying over and over and over again and losing out on the ability to do any of the fun stuff that's locked behind all the money in your game. And that stuff would probably help you from dying less if you had the money to purchase the upgrades, but you can't purchase them because you keep dying. Same exact thing happened in Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is a beautiful game, but they also fall into the same trappings of like locking everything behind a currency that you can just keep losing forever, over and over and over again. At least in Hollow Knight, you have a chance to get it back without any additional bells or whistles, which I don't think is a fantastic system. But like needing to buy a thing that lets you get your money back, and you have to have it equipped, which like lessens your ability to equip other powerful upgrades and talismans or whatever, is like, dude. Like, did you not take a moment to think about the game design consequences of this decision? Either way. I don't think you lose money when you die in Hollow Knight. You do. You literally lose money. You lose all of your money, and you have to go collect it from your shadow. It's like the worst design aspect of Hollow Knight. The fact that it also makes your MP like halved or whatever is also annoying, but whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I just think ultimately having an antagonistic design in a video game towards your players that are going to be like trying to play at their own pace and maybe struggle at the beginning is just not a great way to get people into your game, you know what I mean? I'd argue Hollow Knight's not necessarily an easy game. I think there's a lot of really counterintuitive pieces of Hollow Knight's design that prevents players from like engaging properly with the design itself. Mostly the fact that the best thing you can do in Hollow Knight damage-wise is use your spells. However, that MP is 99% of the time going to be used on healing yourself. So you're not going to use the spells to prevent yourself from taking damage because you're constantly trained to save your mana for healing yourself. So you end up unintentionally figuring out how to play the game wrong because the game teaches you to play the game wrong. So you end up hoarding all of your mana for heals when you should be using it for combat. And it takes a while, or you have to like intentionally start using spells to get to the point where you're not hoarding all of your mana for heals, especially if you're a newer player getting hit a lot. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a hater, but like intentionally antagonistic design for a new player is just like kind of weird to me. Especially when you punish somebody for making, like, a pretty honest mistake. Or just dying. Like, you died once in a video game and then you get the negative snowball effect. It's just crazy to me. Like, why would you punish a player who is already, like, struggling in your game? Meanwhile, like, anybody who just, like, luckily enough decides to, like, I don't know, not die on their first boss encounter, whether it's through luck or just like execution or whatever, the rest of the game becomes easier to them. Doesn't quite make sense to me. I think you can reward players who play well, for sure, as like a bonus. Like the Momodora games do a fantastic job of essentially, if you no-hit a boss, you get a bonus item from that boss that ends up helping you later on. But if you die to that boss, it's not like, oh, also, like, everything you've ever worked for is now destroyed, and you lose a level permanently, and your HP is goes to 0. Like, that's like some Demon Souls level of, like, hey, fuck you for dying, which also I think is bad design. I'll say it. I'm not going to sit here and defend Demon Souls for the fucking world tendency system. But Demon Souls also doesn't give a shit about what you think about it. And the other thing is you can have antagonistic design in your video game if at the very least there is some intrinsic value in exploring and enjoying the game outside of that keeps people engaged such that they're willing to push past the bullshit. This is the Dark Souls effect in full swing. The world and the atmosphere inside of Dark Souls, for many people, even if they're getting their ass fucking pushed in, they're cursed, their HP is like negative 1 billion. They're dying to Taurus Demon 12 million times, but they're doing the same run back over and over and over again because the world design itself is so intriguing and so powerful that they're willing to essentially hurt themselves as a player to see the rest of the game. You have to have balls of steel that are 12 million tons large to tell yourself, to convince yourself, my game is so good, even if we tell the players to die 1 billion times and that we hate them, that they'll still keep playing. You need to have the best design intrinsically for both like art, music, world building. All of that needs to be 10 out of 10 for you to get away with some bullshit like that. You know what I'm saying? Also, left-siders are literally crying. Crying tears of piss. Again, these are just my opinions, but like having antagonistic design towards a player who is doing poorly, like you need to, from my perspective, you need to give them a reason to keep playing. Otherwise, you're just losing players for the sake of like what? Stubbornness? Ooh, my game is so hard. That's like some ROM hack bullshit behavior. You know what I mean? That's some Lamau, you're not good enough to beat my game. It's like, okay. Well, you weren't good enough to make a good game that was worth playing through. It has nothing to say about the difficulty of your game. It has more to say about how annoying and poorly designed your game is that like players aren't willing to push past the difficult parts. Because most gamers are able to accomplish fucking whatever the fuck. Like, there's people who are beating Millennia using dance pads and shit. Did we ever do that coin flip? We'll do it at the end. Thank you for reminding me. Like, people are beating the goddamn Elden Ring DLC. And that shit is unfair and bullshit in so many different ways. But people are putting up with it because the game itself is strong enough on its own to encourage players to continue to explore and continue to play. Out here beating Moog with a steering wheel. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So, like, you can't blame the player at that point by being like, well, they're not good enough to beat my game. It's like, no, you didn't make a good enough game that compelled players to get better at it to finish it. That's the issue. It's not a skill issue on the player's part. It's a skill issue on the game designer's part for not making a game fun enough to push through the difficult sections. Because trust me, there are fucking, like, there's videos of people, like, getting their grandmas who have never played a video game before to play Elden Ring for the first time, and they'll have fun doing so. Also, it was heads, by the way. 69% on tails? Rough. Rough. Face, that's a rough one. That's a rough one. That's a rough one. Anyways. Now this entire tier list video is going to have nothing to do with the actual playthrough here, and it's all going to be about just like talking about game design shit, which is fine. Elden Ring has 0 difficulty if you build a good character. Yes, but that's like, you could say the same thing for any video game with difficulty. Oh, if you just do the thing the game wants you to do and is the most powerful thing in the game, you'll be fine. It's like, yeah, but the whole point is like figuring it out, you know what I mean? The same can be said of like any difficult video game. Maybe outside of like bullet hell games, but even then, like, I don't know. Like things that require knowledge, understanding versus like, I guess, dexterity difficulty. But Elden Ring's still difficult, even on top of that. I don't know. Like you still have to have good reactions and like physical dexterity. Either way, did this rant mean anything to you? Let me know in the YouTube comments below. Let's go ahead and get to that tier list. Because I already know how I feel about Leg Day, personally. Leg Day. Honestly, in my opinion, Leg Day... I think it belongs in GOATed, dude. I just have... Every time I play Leg Day, I have fun. I think it's fine. I think it's GOATed, bro. I think the movement additions of momentum from backdashes, infinite jumps, jump cancels from dive kick into double jump, all of that adds to essentially enhance the design aspect of SotN that I like a lot, which is the fact that the game is really well designed level design wise, as well as the movement through the game. Leg Day just accentuates that and gives you access to really fun movement from the very beginning. There is still progression that you need to find. You know, you need to find weapons, you need to find transformations, you need to find ways to progress through the game. But you still get to explore and like move around in a world that's like a lot of fun. I don't know. Like Leg Day's GOATed, bro. I don't know what else to say. If you think I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. Leave a like, leave a comment. Join the live stream so you can argue about my opinions about Dark Souls. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye, YouTube.